Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks for joining me in another What's Hidden Behind the Card Frame video. This is the third one in the series so far, wherein I take a look at any interesting card art which is hiding behind the card frame or which is hidden behind the card frame. Now today we are going to start off with a big one, and that is Kazakus. Now, if you look at the normal Kazakus card, it doesn't really look like there's much hidden. And you would be absolutely correct, because when we look at the full card art, you can see that there really isn't anything hidden. So, why did I choose to put this card in this video? Well, it's not so much about what is hidden in this card art, as what is missing from the entire Hearthstone game. Now, in order to explain what I am talking about, I am going to show you a quick clip from the Mean Streets of Gadgetan trailer, and if you are eagle-eyed enough, you will immediately notice what I am talking about.
Welcome to the big time, pal! On the Mean Streets of Gadgetan.
So, did you notice anything weird in that clip from the trailer? If you noticed that the other faction bosses like Blackpaw and Don Honcho was in the clips, but Kazakus wasn't there, then you are correct. Kazakus is completely missing from those parts of the trailer, where it's supposed to show all three factions. But in actuality, Kazakus is there, because Kazakus is the dragon that is shown in those parts of the trailer. So I took two screenshots from the trailer that I'm going to show you now, and you will see that Kazakus is in the trailer, but he is in a dragon form. Now this really intrigued me, so I did a little bit of digging, and I found that the flavor text of the card, which you can actually view in your collection manager inside Hearthstone when you right click on the Kazakus card, is the mysterious leader of the Kabal is not a dragon and does not deal in illegal potions. Any public statements to the contrary will be met with litigation and dragon fire potions. So the flavor text for Kazakus is a hint that indeed Kazakus is a dragon. So I dug a little bit deeper and I found an interview that was done with Mike Donace of Blizzard, wherein he discussed different versions that was originally planned for Kazakus. Now I will put the full interview article in the description below, but one of the things that they discuss in the interview was the creation of Kazakus, and that Kazakus was originally planned to be called Kazakus the Banished, and it was supposed to be a 7 mana 7/7 minion with a battle cry. If you have cast 10 unique spells this game, become Kazakus dragon form. So Kazakus as we know it now was originally planned to have a dragon form, and you would activate that once you have cast 10 unique spells. So it would have been a transform effect similar to how many druid cards work currently. And they had this dragon plan of Kazakus so close to the release of the Gadgetan expansion that they even included it in the trailer, and they didn't have time to edit it out of the trailer, so they just released the trailer as it was. So that gives you an idea of just how close Kazakus was to being a dragon and having a dragon effect in Hearthstone. But in the end, for some or another reason, they decided that they were not going to include that, so they changed Kazakus' effect to being able to generate different potions, and they left the trailer as is with the dragon Kazakus. And so I found a bunch of different artwork depicting Kazakus in his current form, where he is busy crafting different potions. And we can also see in this artwork to the left, just inside the doorway, is a blue female which looks strikingly similar to the Kabal crystal runner. And that would actually make a lot of sense, since the Kabal crystal runner is probably very hurriedly running on her way to Kazakus' lab in order to bring him more of the red crystals that we can see him working with right here. So that actually also sheds a lot of light on the artwork behind the Kabal crystal runner. So yeah, I just found it really interesting that there's so much hidden behind Kazakus, and that he actually has the ability to transform into a dragon, as is shown in the trailer, as it is common knowledge that just about all dragons have human forms, just like a Rathian that was also released in the Gadgeton expansion. And we can even see in the Rathian's artwork that he has a very similar red energy that is emanating from him, just like Kazakus. So he is probably using the same magic that Kazakus is to give him power in his human form. And while we are on the subject of the Gadgeton trailer, I want to show you the version of Aya that was in the trailer, because the version of Aya in Hearthstone in the card depicts her as a pretty angry looking female Pandaren, as we can see much closer with her full artwork. And she looks to be the normal Pandaren female size, which is actually pretty big. But when we look at her in the trailer, you will see that she's actually quite small, and she has a very bubbly and happy demeanor, which is in contrast to her artwork.
The city of opportunity. Gadgets and where the gangs rule the streets. Everywhere you look, kid, everyone is crooked. Welcome to the big time, pal. On the mean streets of Gadgets
So here's a few screenshots from the trailer where you can actually see that she is quite small and that she has a very different demeanor to her artwork. So I'm going to let you look at that for a little while, and then I'm going to switch over to some concept art for Aya to show you how small she is in relation to the other characters in the Gadgeton expansion. So as you can see here, when standing next to Kazakus, which is pretty much a normal human size character, you can see she's pretty much half that size. So I just found it really interesting to know that she's not the mean badass panda that is depicted in her artwork. She's actually a very nice and bubbly little panda. Next up is the artwork for One-Eyed Cheat. In the card you can see the goblin, and you can see that he has an eye patch which insinuates that he has lost an eye, and he also has a hook on his hand which insinuates that he has lost a hand also. But when we look at the full card art, we can see that he has also lost a leg. So this goblin has seen quite a bit of battle, in that he has lost an eye, a hand and a leg, even though that might just have been a requirement in order for him to join the crew on a pirate ship. So maybe he was just a regular old goblin and they told him, listen, you're going to have to lose the arm, the leg and the eye in order to become part of this crew. Although, to be honest, his face looks pretty grizzled and he certainly looks like he has seen some shit. And then, of course, no pirate would be complete without his little parrot friend on his shoulder. Next up is the artwork for the Corrupted Healbot. Now, the Corrupted Healbot's card pretty much shows you the entire artwork. But when we actually look at the entire artwork, you can more clearly see all of the different little details about the corrupted Healbot, and I really quite like this artwork, simply because I like the idea of what is essentially a medic character walking around on the battlefield, and he just shoots his allies with these healing potion syringes. I just find that really funny. And when we look at the anti-Killbot's artwork, then we can see that he also has similar syringes. But obviously he isn't corrupted by the old gods as the corrupted Healbot is. So yeah, I just really like the corrupted Healbot's artwork because it shows him with essentially machine guns full of healing syringes. Next up we look at the artwork for Patches the Pirate. Now, I really like the artwork for Patches the Pirate because it deals with a really crazy concept of a beholder, which is exactly the same thing as what the Warlock minion Floating Watcher is, but it's a beholder that is a pirate. And you can even see quite humorously that he has patches not over just one eye, but he has patches over many of his eyes, since beholders have a total of 7 eyes. And that's where he gets his name. He has many patches over his eyes, so his name is Patches the Pirate. And he even has a hook on one of his tentacles, which I guess means that that particular tentacle was cut off halfway and then he just put a hook on it. Or perhaps he's just fooling us and he has a whole tentacle that he just decided to put a hook on. Either way, I really like the Patches the Pirate artwork and all of the little finer details that the artist put into it. Next up is another humorous artwork, and that is the artwork for Explosive Sheep. Now, in the normal cards artwork you can see some sheep in the background, and when we look at the full artwork you can just appreciate all of the finer little details, like all of the dynamite that is stuffed into this mechanical sheep and the little smiley face that is painted on his face, and the fact that his face is actually a cannonball with a fuse coming out of it. And all of the bewildered sheep at the back, who probably aren't certain if this new sheep in their flock is friendly or not. So yeah, I just really like the artwork of the Explosive Sheep. Next up is the artwork for Mirror Entity. Now, Mirror Entity is just simply a case of the incorrect artwork being used, but it was just basically accepted to mean that you are cloning a minion. But when we take a closer look at the full artwork, we can see that the full artwork shows a mage casting teleportation, and that the artwork actually has nothing to do with cloning. He is simply teleporting himself from what looks like the ceiling to the ground, or from the ground to the ceiling. But overall the artwork is really nice, and I feel that the artist put a lot of work into putting a very serious looking face on this mage. Next up is Mogor the Ogre. Now, Mogor the Ogre is of course two different ogre heads with their own special abilities. And if you've played with the hero called Kabal in Heroes of the Storm, then you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Basically, one part of the ogre casts a certain set of spells and the other ogre casts a completely different set of spells. And like in the case of Cho'Gall, it is often possible for the one ogre to have no magical capabilities at all, and for the other ogre to have all of the magical capabilities. So when we look at the full artwork of Mogor the Ogre, we can clearly see what is hidden by the card frame, and that is that the one part of Mogor is casting what looks like a flame spell, and the other part of Mogor is either casting a nature spell or a healing spell. So he's either casting a nature spell like entangling roots, or he's casting a healing spell like Healing Touch or Restoration. But it is pretty sad in my opinion that the card of Mogor the Ogre has absolutely nothing to do with fire or nature, because it would have been pretty cool for him to have an effect similar to the druids cards like choose one, so then you can perhaps choose deal 3 damage, or you can choose heal 5 or something like that. Then basically it would be more in tune with the artwork, in that the one ogre is able to deal damage and the other ogre is able to heal. I really would have wanted to see the card more in tune with that. But putting that aside, the artwork for this card is pretty cool. And next up is the artwork for Nefarian. Now, if you look at the normal Nefarian's card art, you just basically see Nefarian. But when we look at the full artwork, you can see that there are a bunch of adventurers fighting Nefarian. Now, this isn't just a normal party of 5, which is the traditional party setup in World of Warcraft. There is actually a total of 8 people that I can count in this artwork that are fighting Nefarian. So that gives us the indication that it is indeed a raid party in World of Warcraft that is being depicted here fighting Nefarian. And if you've played World of Warcraft and you've fought Nefarian, then you will notice that the pillars around Nefarian is Nefarian's rise inside the raid instance called Blackwing Lair. And if you want to see that fight inside Blackwing Lair, then you can just check the description below. I've put a video there where I show you how Nefarian appears in World of Warcraft. And I give you a little bit more lore behind the Nefarian card. And lastly, we look at the card art for Feeding Time. Now, Feeding Time's artwork actually shows and describes exactly what the card is about. It shows a bunch of Pterrordaxes swooping down on a long neck strider. And you can see the expression on the long neck strider's face. He certainly realizes that he's walked into the wrong neighborhood, as there are a crapload of Pterrordaxes around him, and one Pterrordax has already landed on him and is ready to chow down for feeding time. And we can actually also see the card art for the Pterrordax, although the card art for Pterrordax isn't from the Feeding Time artwork. Although it might look similar, you will notice certain differences in that the Pterrordax's art is not part of the Feeding Time's art. So yeah, I just really like the expression on this long neck's face and the absolute realization that he is not going to have a good time. So yeah guys, that's it for this video. I will be on the lookout for any other artwork that I find interesting, but if you have any suggestions about art that you think I might find interesting, be sure to leave a comment below, and I will be sure to check out that art. So that's it for this episode of What's Hidden Behind the Card Frame. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.